I'm Dutch, and let's react to the Americans. Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Johan, and I'm a typical Dutchman. And if you're planning to come over to Europe for your holidays or for permanently living, and you're wondering why is everything so expensive in the United States in comparison with Europe, then you are at the right place, because in this channel I take a look at and react to everything about the cost of life and living in the US versus the cost of life and living in Europe, or specifically the Netherlands. And for today, I'm going to take a look at, again, Legal Eagle. I am already subscribed, so I'm going to like this video. We're going to take a look at what is illegal in the US, but not everything else, everywhere else. So in Europe, what can we do in Europe that you guys in America cannot do? Subtitles can be off, so let's take a look at what this is.
Welcome to America, the freest country in the entire world, which we know is true because it's a thing that people say. And you might actually believe that until you try to build housing somewhere or drink alcohol in public. But unfortunately, America is not the freest country in the world. In fact, according to some, it's barely in the top 20 freest countries. But the world is a diverse place, and one country's freedom is another country's criminal violation. And
okay. We're still in the intro. Yeah, okay.
There are wide swaths of activities that are perfectly normal in other countries, but also very, very illegal in America. So today, let's look at some international liberties that could get you fined or locked up if you tried them stateside. And some of these foreign freedoms may surprise you. But let's start with a truly evil and
Okay, so for the ones who going from Europe to America, watch and learn. Because maybe you do something that it's not allowed in America that is allowed in Europe. So with the current visa restrictions, etc., soccer is coming up. World Championship soccer is coming up. So go on to look at this.
Dastardly product, one that
Kinder eggs? What the?
Actually specifically targets children. I'm of course talking about Kinder eggs. Now, we like to say that children are the future, and here in America, the moment we find out that something puts children in danger, legislators pull out all the stops to ensure that we try to keep our kids safe. And that's why America has stood firm to cracking down on a grave and terrible threat to children's health and safety posed by toy-filled chocolate eggs. Kinder Surprise eggs, which famously contain a yellow capsule, which contains a small toy, have been a beloved staple for children around the world ever since the product's introduction in 1974 by...
Yeah, that's something I know from... I switched to German. from Germany. Kinderüberraschung. I'm correct, yeah. Kinderüberraschung. Kinder surprise in English. I know this from my childhood, so it's more than 50 years old.
Ferrero, an Italian company. But in the United States, these toy-filled treats have been classified as dangerous illegal contraband.
Illegal contraband. Man!
And some background. In 1938, the US passed the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, which empowered government agencies to regulate food safety. And under consumer safety regulations issued by the FDA and the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the sale and distribution of any food with a, quote, non-nutritive object embedded is prohibited. And that includes
has partially or completely embedded therein non-nutritive object. Confectionery containing alcohol or non-nutritive substance.
includes toys found inside confectionery items. Now, although you can find Kinder Surprise eggs in Canada and Mexico, don't try to bring them into this country or you risk serious fines. In 2011, the US Customs and Border Protection, the CBP, seized more than 60,000 Kinder
He is so happy he did it with his mouth.
eggs from travelers' baggage and international mail shipments, more than twice that number from 2010. This caused the CBP to issue a press release in 2012 warning people to try to stop sneaking chocolate eggs into the country. Quote, also known as Kinder Eggs, these chocolate treats may be cute and seasonal, but they are too dangerous to children to be imported legally into the US. The problem is the small plastic toy inside the Kinder Egg. While sold in many countries, this product is banned from the US because young children can choke on it. Now,
Yeah, okay. In that sentence, it's right. You can choke on it, and I haven't seen a Kinder Egg for a long, long time, but I believe there is some kind of a warning that it's not good for children younger as 3, or I believe there's a 3+ sign on it, or something like that. No.
Now, some people have argued that these Kinder Eggs are not a risk to European children and Canadian children because European and Canadian children are smarter than US children.
Yeah, maybe they are.
Now, a few months after the CBP released that statement, a married couple from Seattle was detained at the Canadian border when the pair was caught with 6 Kinder Eggs from Vancouver. The couple was unaware that they were in possession.
Where are they gonna say carry a 2,500 fine per egg? They had 6 eggs?
Of illegal ovarian contraband, and was even more shocked that each egg carried a penalty of $2,500 per egg. Now, luckily for that couple, they were let off with a warning. But not to worry, American Kinder fans, because in 2018, Ferrero introduced a modified Kinder Joy egg that complies with US regulations. Crucially, the Kinder Joy is not actually an egg-shaped chocolate. It's half a chocolate egg with wafer bits inside, while the toy is kept on the other side of the egg away from the edible bit, which I guess is suitable for hapless American children.
Yeah, okay. Still an egg with on one side the chocolate and on the other side the toy. Yeah, but this still doesn't look like but okay.
And despite the fear surrounding Kinder Eggs, there's little evidence that these chocolate delights are as dangerous as claimed. Now, there have been 7 reported child deaths between 1989 and 2016, a relatively tiny number in the face of billions of eggs sold. And furthermore, the packaging warns parents that the eggs are not suitable for kids under the age of 3 and supervision is recommended.
Just like I said, there is something like a 3+ sign on it. Yeah, it's there.
But let's not leave food-based illegality, because while Americans remain deeply divided on a wide variety of issues, there's one thing that most of us can agree on, and that's that life begins at cheese. Now, over the last 40 years, our love of cheese, much like our waistbands, has grown. Between 1977 and 2020, we Americans have increased our annual cheese consumption from 16 pounds to 40 pounds every year. Our annual cheese consumption from 16
Americans' desire for cheese may have more doubled over the past 40 years. Cheese is what for dinner and lunch and breakfast and snack time. Okay.
pounds to 40 pounds every year. And I'm probably responsible for about half of that. So needless to say, we Americans love our cheese, whether it's on pizza, burgers, or in the form of 64 Jesus-infused slices of American cheese.
Have you been up all night eating cheese?
I think I'm blind.
But if you're taking a cheese tour of the world, be careful what you bring back to the United States, because your love of cheese might just put you in legal jeopardy.
You guys enjoying that cheese? It's unpasteurized. It's illegal in this country.
In fact, many raw soft cheeses from France, like Bleu de Gex, Roquefort, or Reblochon, are illegal in the United States due to the FDA's strict cheese production regulations. Under these rules, cheeses made with raw, unpasteurized milk is illegal to import or sell in the United States unless it has been aged for at least 60 days. The reasoning is, of course, food safety, namely to minimize the risk of foodborne contagions like Listeria, Salmonella, and E. coli. And after 60 days, the acids and salts in raw milk cheese, coupled with the aging process, begin to naturally kill these types of harmful bacteria.
Yeah, because we use pasteurized milk.
But here's the thing. anyone who has ever been to France knows that the cheese is so much better there. And it's not just raw.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, very fine. We in the Netherlands have some good cheeses also, but the French with their soft cheeses, yeah, they have good cheeses over there.
Cheese. The FDA has also cracked down on certain cheeses just because they contain too many live insects. That's the case with Casu Marzu, a traditional Sardinian sheep's milk cheese.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Gazamatsu. I won't eat it myself. I can understand that it's not allowed in the United States. I've worked in a restaurant for a while. I don't think that I had to know.
It's intentionally infested with live maggots.
Yeah.
Casu Marzu, which literally means
Yeah.
rotten cheese.
Oh, because of the maggots. Yeah, I understand. Nobody will eat this, I guess.
Gets its special flavor from being left to rot out among swarms of fly larvae. And while I'm told this hellish-looking cheese is actually quite delicious, it turns out that eating maggots is actually a tremendous health risk, earning the cheese the nickname the world's most dangerous cheese.
Yeah.
And as a result, Casu Marzu is not only illegal in the US, but in the entire European Union.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But here's the thing. Anyone who has ever been to Sardinia knows the maggot-filled cheese is just so much better there. But
No, it's not.
the French have also been on the receiving end of big government's anti-bug eating crusade. In 2013, the FDA angered American cheesophiles by blocking the import of French mimolette cheese just because the cheese is naturally infested with cheese mites. And while most cheesemakers consider the mites a nuisance, mimolette producers actually encourage the microscopic critters to burrow into the rind in order to help the cheese ripen and produce its distinctively sweet, earthy flavor. Mighty. But the FDA has determined that eating too many mites could cause an allergic reaction, resulting in the ban of the Gouda-like cheese. And though the FDA has no legal limit on cheese mites, the agency indicated a target of no more than 6 mites per square inch, which mimolette simply cannot meet. So what are the consequences of contraband cheese?
We got a tip about some food entering the country illegally?
No.
Well, the failure to declare food products on your customs forms can result in fines of up to $10,000, and your unlawful cheese will be seized. But be forewarned, there is a thriving black market for cheese in the United States, and illegal cheese is very much on the government's radar.
Illegal market?
Department of Homeland Security, the post-9/11 agency responsible for protecting the country from terrorism and Kinder eggs, has helped bust cheese smuggling rings into Canada. But unless you're a large-scale cheese smuggler, you're probably not looking at any jail time.
Wow, you got me. Good one. Making me think I was gonna die in federal prison. And that's super funny. You scamps.
So worst-case scenario, you're probably looking at a fine and suffering the ennui of eating your dry, cheeseless crackers alone. But let's leave the food world and get into something that probably makes a little bit more sense. Now, a source of pride for the baby boomer generation is that everything was dangerous and no one seemed to care. Yes, that golden era where we lined our walls with cancerous asbestos, medical professionals smoked in hospitals, and people sold chemistry sets to children that contained real uranium.
Oh, they did? Fun and uranium for the whole family in this 1950s science kit. Did they know? Real uranium. Atomic Energy Lab.
Of course, as a society, we used to let kids hurl giant darts into the air with impunity and call it a national pastime. That's the story of lawn darts, which have been illegal in the United States since 1988 after being linked to thousands of injuries and the deaths of at least 3 children. Lawn darts, known as javelin darts, or jarts, was a popular lawn game in the mid-20th century. Gameplay was actually quite straightforward.
In the United States. If anyone from Europe can help me out, but I cannot remember from my youth that we had something like this. So, or anyone from around the world react, because this is, I guess, typical something from the United States instead of Europe or the entire world.
Players would take turns tossing giant darts into a circle placed about 35 feet away, a la cornhole, but with giant razor-sharp darts raining down from the sky instead of soft beanbags. Now, unfortunately, throwing a giant metal dart is a tremendous safety hazard, and government regulators eventually began to take notice.
This isn't child's play, according to the Food and Drug Administration.
The US's first attempt to outlaw the game was strenuously opposed by dart manufacturers who fought the proposed FDA ban in court. In 1970, manufacturers actually won a compromise that would allow the sale of lawn darts so long as it was 1, only marketed to adults, then 2, the product was no longer sold in toy stores, and 3, the product contained warning labels alerting consumers to keep it out of the reach of children. But unfortunately, these compromise measures were insufficient to prevent tragedy for aerospace engineer David Snow. In April 1987, Snow's 7-year-old daughter, Michelle, was killed by a lawn dart thrown by one of her 9-year-old brother's playmates.
Killed?
In the backyard of their home in Riverside, California. The dart hit her head with approximately 23,000 pounds of pressure per square inch, and Snow's daughter died 3 days later.
7-year-old. The dart came down right on her, and with researchers estimate 23,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. How the heck do you generate that amount of pressure with a dart? But wow. One kid tossed his jar too far and too high. A kid sailing it over the backyard fence and into the front yard where the Snow's daughter, 7-year-old Michelle, was playing with the dolls. Wow.
The grieving father then made it his mission to lobby public officials to take lawn darts off the market for good. Snow brought his complaint to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, who were persuaded to investigate Snow's claims. The commission discovered that over a period of 8 years, lawn darts had sent 6,100 people to the emergency room. 81% of those cases involved kids aged 15 or younger, half were 10 or younger, and many had suffered permanent injury, disability, or even death.
Wow.
In 1988, Snow prevailed in his crusade. The commission voted 2-1 to prohibit the sale of all lawn darts and had them removed from stores in time for that year's Christmas.
Yeah, but yeah, how, yeah, throwing them up in the air, a child, an adult, something else, but a child throwing something like that up in the air and then coming down, it's...
And Canada also outlawed lawn darts in July of 1989. Now, if you want to play traditional lawn darts, you'll have to hop on a plane and visit the European Union, where the game is still legal. But here in the US,
Oh,
you can find a legal
do we still have this lawn darts? I'm not aware of this. I'm not. I really don't.
version with a modified plastic blunt tip that replaces the sharp metal tip, because that makes quite a lot more sense. But that takes us to something that's arguably even more dangerous: smoking. Now, for most of the 20th century, cigarette smoking was glorified as the ultimate embodiment of the American West. Things like tough guys, rebels without a cause. In advertising, doctors endorsed their favorite brands, while we were told that women found smoking men irresistible. But this image of health
Okay. Doctor, should I stop smoking? No. It's good.
health and sex appeal slowly began to change starting in 1964 after the US Surgeon General stated definitively that yes, smoking tobacco can be fatal. And research shows that flavored cigarettes largely appeal to and are disproportionately used by those under 18 years of age.
That is not how to inhale, Bobby. You're hotboxing it.
So, to help combat youth smoking, in 2009, the FDA banned the sale of flavored cigarettes, including cloves, cinnamon, candy, and fruit flavors, pursuant to the Family Smoking Prevention and Control Act. Though menthol cigarettes were exempted from the ban, as well as non-cigarette tobacco products like electronic cigarettes, cigars, smokeless tobacco, and hookah. But the US is not alone here, as countries with policies banning some or all types of flavored cigarettes include Canada, Brazil, Ethiopia, Uganda, Senegal, Niger, Mauritania, and
I see France and Germany, Turkey, so Moldova.
28 member states of the European Union, Moldova, Turkey, and Singapore. As for everyone else, Well, not only are flavored cigarettes completely legal in the vast majority of countries, but the US ban on cloves actually created an international incident. In April 2010, Indonesia, the world's top producer of clove cigarettes and the source of the vast majority of those smoked in the US, filed a trade dispute with the World Trade Organization. In its claim, Indonesia argued that the US ban illegally discriminated against foreign products of flavored tobacco and created an unlawful advantage for domestic tobacco manufacturers. In September 2011, the WTO agreed, finding that the ban was indeed discriminatory because it prohibited clove cigarettes while allowing the sale of American menthol cigarettes. The opinion was affirmed on appeal in 2012. This ruling gave Indonesia the right to retaliate until either the US changed its law to comply or the two sides reached a settlement. And in 2014, the two countries reached a final settlement on the issue, ending their dispute. Under the settlement, the US agreed it would not arbitrarily discriminate against certain Indonesian tobacco products and promised to work with Indonesia on other trade issues. Now, a decade after the flavored tobacco ban, public health advocates seem to have been vindicated. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Adolescent Health found that the flavor ban was effective at reducing cigarette use among young people. In April of 2022, the FDA took additional steps against flavored tobacco products by proposing a ban on the sales of menthol cigarettes and all flavored cigars. In his proposal, the FDA argued that these actions had the potential to reduce disease and death by, quote, reducing youth experimentation and addiction and increasing the number of smokers that quit.
Yeah, that's okay. But I did never smoke, and I know a lot of my students don't smoke. I have always, every year there were students who do smoke, but I see in the last 2 decades that I was in the education sector, I saw less and less young people smoking. So, but I don't know about flavored cigarettes, etc. No, what I saw nowadays is more and more people vaping is the correct word, I believe, also with different flavors of fluids. I don't know.
Public comments will continue through July of 2022, but Kinder Surprise eggs are already banned, so the hard work has already been accomplished.
He keeps going back to the Kinder Surprise eggs, yeah. Kinderüberraschung.
But that takes us to the next American illegality, something you potentially might do every single day. Now, if you were an American pedestrian in 1903, crossing the street was a very simple endeavor. If you wanted to cross the street, you would just walk across the street. Before the introduction of cars, roads were seen as a public space that all citizens had a right to occupy, even children at play. But today, if you try and cross the street without using a crosswalk or cross the street when the traffic light is flashing do not walk, well, congratulations, you have committed the crime of jaywalking. Now, across the pond, some of our European allies have taken a more laissez-faire attitude towards jaywalking by making it totally legal. They just call it walking. Now, for example...
Yeah, okay. We had, I can remember, it's a long time ago, when I was a young kid, that it was illegal to cross the street if you were, let's say, 25 meters from a crosswalk, a crossing, a zebra crossing. Then you had to use the zebra crossing instead of going just crossing over the street. That was considered jaywalking. But nowadays, in the last 2 decades, or 3 decades, 4 decades, it's not illegal to cross the street. It's illegal for the car to hit you. So, but that's the result of those car-based America. Everything is about the car, and nothing is about protecting the people.
There are no laws against jaywalking in Norway. The same goes for the UK, meaning that the Beatles didn't need to use the crosswalk for their famous Abbey Road cover. And the Netherlands used to have laws against jaywalking, but repealed these statutes in 1995.
There they are, in 1995, yeah. Because, yeah.
To simplify the traffic code and give pedestrians more freedom. In these countries, your right to cross the street freely shall not be infringed. But here in the United States, we've taken a more punitive approach to walking. Now, every year, cities like Los Angeles issue tickets to tens of thousands of pedestrians for jaywalking, which
The cost of a ticket is $196. It does not include administrative fees and assessments. $200 for jaywalking.
includes fines worth up to $200. But this was not always the case. In fact, ticketing someone for jaywalking is a relatively young concept in the United States. According to University of Virginia historian Peter Norton, the notion of jaywalking, with jay being an early 20th century slur for someone stupid or unsophisticated, was introduced by a group of auto industry aligned groups in the 1920s as part of a concerted pro-car, anti-pedestrian propaganda campaign. But when cars were first introduced, there were a few crosswalks painted on the street. Pedestrians generally ignored the ones that existed because they didn't need to. But as cars became more widely available, pedestrian deaths skyrocketed, with hundreds of thousands of Americans, many children, being killed in car crashes for the first few decades of the 20th century.
And that's the fault of the car driver.
So to counter all this negative publicity, auto industries sought to enact traffic laws that would shift blame from drivers and their cars to the pedestrians themselves.
Yeah. I was expecting that. It's not my fault. I'm the driver of the car. It's not me or my car. No, it's you. You crossed us.
And it worked. Not only did cities and states begin criminalizing jaywalking, but the US government supported the anti-pedestrian propaganda campaign by ridiculing jaywalkers and placing blame on them for automobile crashes. And today, some criminal justice advocates believe jaywalking should be decriminalized altogether. But as an aside, you should all go watch Not Just Bikes and get orange pilled, because it's kind of stupid that we've ceded all of this real estate to cars for both driving and parking, when cities should be for the people themselves. But I'll get down off of my soapbox. And well,
Yeah.
it might sound counterintuitive, countries that allow jaywalking tend to have lower traffic deaths, as pedestrians tend to cross more safely and when they aren't worried about criminal penalties. And criminal justice advocates point out that jaywalking laws have a very disparate impact, with tickets not evenly applied and enforcement disproportionately targeting people of color. So far in 2021, Virginia has heeded this call by becoming the first and so far only state to decriminalize jaywalking, and a similar bill to decriminalize jaywalking was vetoed by California's Governor Gavin Newsom in 2021. So for better or worse, if you want to stay on the straight and narrow in 49 of the US states, you'd better be sure to look both ways and stay in the crosswalk every time. For now. Okay, so maybe America isn't the freest country in the world after all, but you can take a stand for your right to exclusive content with today's sponsor.
Yeah, okay.
Nebula and CuriosityStream. On Nebula, my videos always come out early and with zero ads, and I release exclusive content all the time, like a video on the things that people misunderstand about the Constitution, why NFTs are bad for creators, anti-slap laws, my first full-length documentary, Bad Law Words Good, and tons more. All exclusive to Nebula. It's truly the rarest Kinder Egg. And my friends post exclusive content to Nebula all the time as well, like Real Engineering's entire D-Day series, and Half as Interesting's Crime Spree, where they try to break as many silly laws across the US as possible. All of this exclusive content is available only on Nebula, which you can get for free with CuriosityStream, because Nebula is creator-owned and creator-operated. And by the way, we've been developing Nebula like crazy. Nebula now has apps for iOS, Android, Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV, Android TV, and it was recently nominated for its first Streamy Award. And my fellow creators and I really care about Nebula, and we're thrilled to be partnering with CuriosityStream because they are the go-to source for the best documentaries and long-form educational content on the internet. And they even have an entire section devoted to unsolved mysteries and crime. So if you like my videos, you'll love the thousands of titles on CuriosityStream. And the best way to get access to Nebula and all of the incredible content is through the amazing CuriosityStream Nebula bundle deal, with its current sales price of less than $15 a year to get full access to both sites. And to be clear, that Nebula subscription is not a trial, it's free for as long as you're a CuriosityStream member. There just isn't a better deal in streaming where you get two great streaming sites with content you'll actually watch and enjoy for less than $15 a year at the current sales price. But what's more, signing up will actually help countless independent educational creators beyond just Legal Eagle. So sign up now by clicking on this button that's on screen right now, or you can click on the link that's down below in the description. It's a great way to support educational content and get tons of exclusive content that you'll love. So click on these links right now. Or you can click on this playlist over here with all of my other YouTube videos. So click on this link, or I'll see you in court.
Yeah. some amazing stuff. It's the Kinder eggs, yeah. That was the most interesting part. Oh man, jaywalk, yeah, that's more like here in Europe. You are better protected by law as as a walker, as someone who walks and cycles, because I'm not sure for entire Europe, but I know for the Netherlands for sure that the cyclist is protected. So even if the cyclist makes a mistake and causes an accident with or without injury, then the fault is still with the driver, because the driver is sitting in his car fully protected, and he has to look out for someone who's sitting on a bicycle who is not fully protected with airbags, etc., etc. So even if the cyclist makes a fault, 90% of the time, the car driver is the one who has to pay up for all the insurance costs, etc. And that makes the car driver more aware and more careful around cyclists, and that makes the entire traveling on the road much safer in total for both users. And the walker who's crossing, same. So that's over here in the Netherlands, that's for sure. But I'm not sure for the other countries in Europe, but yeah. We are not, the car driver is not protected as much as it is in the United States. If you like the video, then press like. And if you want to see more of my videos, then this is a good point to start with. And I would really appreciate if you press this button to subscribe to the channel. And I will see you in the next video.